Here are the top 8 tips on how to film on a smartphone. Tip number 1, clean your camera lens. It makes a massive difference. As you can see, I have not cleaned the lens, the image looks blurry. I'm now going to clean the camera lens with my t-shirt. Now you can see the image looks so much better, so much cleaner. The colors are so much more vibrant. Clean the lens and makes a big difference. Tip number 2, manually change the camera settings. For us, and anytime you want that film cinematic look, you want it to be 24 frames per second. In my case, I have an iPhone 11. I'm gonna go ahead and swipe up. But when I turn into video mode, right there, you have the option to go film in 1080p, hit it again, 4K, and I can also change the frames per second. So I can do 60 frames per second in 4K, 30 frames per second, or 24 frames per second. All of my home videos that I film with my son, with my wife, I film all those at 24 frames per second just because I like it having that cinematic look. Tip number 3, film cinematically. Just because you're filming with a cell phone doesn't mean you can't make it look like a Hollywood movie. Now, a lot of Hollywood movies, they'll use dollies, they'll use slow push-ins. If you're just doing it handheld, like, that looks okay, but there's books, guys and girls. There's books where you can get really cool cinematic shots. And I'll cut to a couple examples right now of me filming cinematically, just using books, whatever resources I have around me to capture smooth push-in shots, smooth dolly shots. There's several other tools out there to film cinematically. One of those is the DJI Mobile 2. Now that costs a little bit more money, but on one of our films that we just did recently, Jeff's, and I'm gonna show you guys a couple examples right now, we used that device to capture smooth cinematic shots. Now, once again, that costs a little bit more money, but if you're doing everything on a budget, which a lot of us are, me included, you can use books to capture those dolly cinematic shots. Tip number 4, lighting. Lighting is crucial to making your films look good. You can have the best or the worst camera in the world. If you don't have good lighting, it's not gonna look good. But especially with cell phones. Cell phones struggle in low light because they have a small camera sensor. So whenever you can get away with it, use lighting to light your subject. Now, if you don't have any lights, use natural lighting. So it could just be a matter of opening up the window in your office or at your house. So in this example, I want to show you the power of using natural light to make the scene look so much better. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise the blinds right now, just like that. So the more light you can blast into the scene, the better it's going to look. And I'm gonna show you guys a shoot that we did for our Filmmaker Challenge. And this one on Zane's project, we were filming in the office, and the subject matter looked good as far as the people in the film, but in the background, it was noisy as far as the image looked grainy. It was because it was low light circumstances. There is some options after you film to kind of deal with it a little bit. Magic Bullet has a plugin that we actually used on the film called denoiser. Anything in low light with a cell phone, it struggles. So just be aware of that. And when you can, open up windows, use other sources as far as other lights, it will make the image look better. Tip number 5, don't use the digital zoom. It's only gonna make the quality worse. It actually doesn't enhance it. If you can, use the optical lenses. So in this case, iPhone has 3 different lenses. You can physically see 3 different lenses here, a wide, normal, and then a telephoto lens. You're not digitally zooming in when you're using the different lenses by using that 1x, 0.5, or the 2x option. So whenever you can, use the optical lenses, not the digital zoom, because you're actually lowering the quality. So this is me using the digital zoom, zooming in, zooming in. As you can see, everything looks grainy. It's not enhancing the visuals at all. It just looks bad. Don't do it. Tip number 6, use a third-party app. Now, one of my favorite third-party apps for filming with a cell phone is Filmic Pro. I'll have a link down below in the description. Not sponsored by any means, but I researched a ton of different iPhone apps. This is one of my favorite apps that caters best to the way I like to film. But you have full control of aperture, of shutter, of white balance. You can control all that in phone, in real time. And another big setting you have with this app is I can manually focus. So I can have focus for my hand, and now I can rack focus to something in the background. I'm just gonna show you guys a couple examples right now, and this makes everything look so much more cinematic as far as having that shallow depth of field. Tip number 7, record quality audio. Audio sounds so much better when you're up close to the camera compared to when I start walking back. You're gonna notice not only do I have to raise my voice, but the echo is gonna get substantially worse. So as you can see, this isn't the greatest audio to use in your films, But as they walk closer to the camera, the audio gets better and better, as you would expect. Now it sounds like normal audio compared to that stuff we just heard a second ago. So whenever you can record and you don't have any external mics, get close to your subject to record. Now, we learned this firsthand, how bad the audio can sound on a cell phone on one of our last projects we just did, where we had to film the whole video on a cell phone. We didn't use any external audio.
Dude, you really came through on this one. I couldn't find it. The store's empty.
So what's the solution to this? Whenever you can get away with it, film closer shots compared to further away shots. The other big tool out there to capture good audio is there's several amazing sound recorders that you can use with your cell phones. We reached out to our friends at Rode. Most of our mics are from Rode, and they had several different options that they suggested are the best options for recording audio with your cell phone. So I'll have a link down below in the description. I'll have those pop up right now as well. But these were the two that they strongly suggested would be the best options out there that they provided. Tip number 8, exposure. Exposure is huge for making any image look better or more cinematic. You have full control of the exposure just in the iPhone app, and we're talking iPhones for those that have iPhones. By having the phone out and by holding down on the screen, it's going to lock the exposure. And now when I manually drag my finger up or down, it's changing the exposure. Now this is something I actually learned recently, guys. Like, why didn't I know this sooner? So I wanted to make sure you guys knew that quick little tip. Those are our top 8 tips for how to film with a smartphone. It was definitely a learning process for us. We did a filmmaker challenge, and if you haven't watched our videos yet, definitely get on that. I'll have links down below in the description to all 4 of our videos that we did. But we didn't research in depth like the best ways to film with a cell phone. So everything I just shared with you, there's basically all the mistakes that we just recently made. I'm now going to premiere the film that I created on a cell phone, all in an hour time frame. Also keep in mind, this was created before we learned all these tips on how to get the best footage possible with a cell phone. And one of the best ways to learn is just by going out there and doing it, but we also wanted to make sure you guys could avoid a lot of the mistakes that we made through a lot of trial and error. But I guarantee you the next videos that we create with our cell phones will look a lot better based on the tips we just shared with you guys. And without any further ado, this is the world premiere of my video, Toilet Paper Point of View, all filmed on iPhone 11. It all comes down to this. We challenge you, our audience, to create a short film filmed 100% on a smartphone, whether it be a Samsung, iPhone, whatever you have, is you have to film it on a smartphone, and it has to feature toilet paper one way or another, as these videos are doing. Our favorite films will be featuring next week, Thursday, on this YouTube channel, and I'll be giving shout outs to our favorite films. So definitely, if you want to be a part of this challenge, we'd be stoked to have you guys. We'll have all the information down below in the video description. So the people that are watching these videos now, make it happen.